I'm going to have a look at a couple of the sequencer type modules that we've got here. This little drum sequencer thing, which is a generator, and a couple of step sequencers that we've got in the sort of modules section. There are two step sequencers. I couldn't think of anything more imaginative to call them. One is a step input sequencer, you kind of play the notes in with the keyboard, and the other one is one of these kind of things, which is why I've called that step sequencer 2. This module has two pages. In the main page here, what we've got is we've got a bunch of multi-sliders down here. There's a tabbed interface for this, so at the moment we're seeing note value. Click there, we're seeing velocity. Click there, note length. They're all set to the same length at the moment. I just sort of set these at random at the moment. Above there you have a row of switches. What these represent, these are four-way switches. They can be either when it's 1, that's just a single beat. If it's 0, that's off. And if you drag up, 2 is like a double beat. Triplet, 4 beats. Okay, so I've got this, at the moment it's rigged up so that it's hooked up to the space bar here. Just tell you what's on this other page here. We've got this here sets the range. At the moment it's going all 16 beats. I could sort of have it just sort of half them or whatever I wanted here. There is a thing to increase a multiplier for the note length, this randomizer which we'll talk about in a minute, and the swing parameter if you want. Let's go back to the main page. We've also got the notes will play through singly unless I change that repeat value. They will step through one at a time unless I change that step value. If it was 2, it would be selecting every other note. And there's this octave setting here. Let's just turn that to 0 for a second. Note that that also changes the repeat. What that does is repeat each thing at, that would be 1 octave up, 2 octaves up, 4 octaves, whatever, or in the negative value, 1 octave down. So this is outputting as MIDI 1 at the moment. It's going to this VOSIM type module thing that I've got here, which I've set up a kind of simple sort of synth. The VOSIM module is going out into the amp and pan, which is being controlled by this ADSR here. There's another envelope generator controlling a filter and some other parameters. But basically they're all picking up off this MIDI 1 here. So MIDI 1 being sent out to the sequencer is triggering this ADSR there. It's triggering this envelope generator here, and it's triggering the note number for the oscillator here. So if we just play that. We have a stuck note there. We can change the order, the usual thing. It can play up, down, down, up, oscillate, which is just the two extremities, a random selection, or this up, down with 2 P's and 2 D's, which is repeating the extremes. So it goes up, plays that top note twice, and then back down, plays the bottom note twice, and so on. As well as those note orders. Let's turn that off. As well as those note orders, there's also this randomizer thing here, which is a feature of figures in quite a lot of the modules here. What this does, this size parameter here says how many random values do you want to select. In this case, the values refer to the step numbers, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So if I set that to 8, it will pick 8 values at random between 1 and 16, because that's the range set here. If it was set 1 to 8 there, it would pick 8 values from within there. This refill value here, this tells it when to pick another 8 random values. So at the moment it'll go through 32 steps and then pick another 8. In other words, it'll play the pattern 4 times before it selects another random pattern. So if I click that now, let's unmute these things again. You get the idea. Okay, and I mentioned there was a couple of step sequencers. The second one here is a sort of like old-fashioned style step entry sequencer, where you enter the steps on your keyboard, play it a note at a time. It has 2 modes, one which is the sort of the most basic, which simply writes in whatever you've got here, 16th notes, with the possibility of 16th note rests, and the other, which is slightly more advanced in that you can enter notes of different lengths by repeating. So if you wanted to enter an 8th note, you'd enter a 16th note twice, and so on. But we'll start off in mode 1. When you go to the write mode, it clears whatever's in the buffer and enables you to enter your steps. So if I just, this is set to obviously up here the input of my keyboard, and it's set to MIDI 1 output again, so that's going to these various modules up here. So if I just enter a sequence now, and then hit play. Pause that a second. You notice actually that was transposed down an octave here because I hit the transpose key here. This, you can transpose this as it's playing, either using this or using your keyboard. So again, if I let it play, and you can also play it, the sequence in reverse, and in a sort of palindrome mode. So pretty basic really, the sort of thing you might have found on sort of keyboards back in the sort of 80s and 90s. So this mode 2, let's just clear the buffer there. In mode 2, it's a little bit more cumbersome. When you write, you have to hit the enter key after each note. That's so that you can enter longer note values if you want to. So if I hit C once and then hit enter, it would just play back a 16th note. If I'll hit D twice, that will now be an 8th note, and so on. That will now be a dotted 8th note, and so on. And finally, we have a little drum sequencer here. And again, if you remember the this other sequencer over here, the set 2, it has a similar kind of setup here with these rows of switches. So we've got 3 drum tracks here. These represent the 16 steps, and they can be either off, as they all are now, a single hit, double hit, triplet, or 4. The note range, again, just like it was down here, is selected with this range bar. At the moment it's going through all 16 steps, so the step range rather than. And in the second window here we have parameters relating to the 3 drum tracks here, the volume, the pan, and the tune. And you'll notice also these all have modulation options as well, so we can modulate the volume, the pan, tune, so on. It also has, again, that sort of Tintin randomizer here with the familiar size and seed fields here. What we also have is each of these 16 steps can have 4 variations. So let's just load some sounds. So if I hit this set folder button and we go to just search for right, load a bass drum into that one, load a whatever clap into that one, and closed hi-hat into that one. So if I just do these on the 4, it's better. Okay, we got 2 notes there, and hit play. Just unmute that. And we can enter some more notes here. Again, we can vary the order in which these sequences are played: up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, oscillate, random, and up, down, with repeating the bottom and top steps. As I say, each of these can have some variations. So if I go to variation 2, it's copied this into the second variation, but if I just change this, let's take out a beat and add a couple there. If I go back to 1, so what I can choose to do then is to have this rotate through these variations. So if I go, at the moment it's static, it's not going anywhere. If I have this cycle, and the range is 2, so it'll just cycle between those 2 variations. So and obviously I could set variations for the other tracks and so on. And as mentioned, of course, we've got this, so I'll just put that back to static. We can also have that selecting random up to whatever this range is here. So at the moment it was cycling through just the 2. If I had 4 and then hit random, it would select random variations. If I go to randomize steps now, if we just take this back to static, have this repeat after 16, then again we can get select the spacebar there, so we can just activate it with the spacebar. So you can create some interesting sort of variations on your basic beat there. And of course, I know there are only sort of 3 tracks here, but of course you could load another module, so you could have 6 tracks, and you can create some quite interesting sort of rhythmic variations there. And of course, because the whole thing is clocked up together, you could have this running with a loop perhaps. If I just set a again, if we use this to set the tempo, so I've no idea what this is going to be, but let's just select one at random. Would help if that wasn't muted. And select spacebar to trigger that one, see what happens. So all kinds of fun to be had there. And of course we could slave any of the sequencers to it, or indeed the arpeggiator. So